Hey everyone, me Deploy Line Steve here again with the final of the generic tier list videos. Wasn't obvious. I'll be rating the tier list of the detachments today. This is not the final of Drukhari and stuff, but just like the overarching generic videos of like how this detachment works, how good this detachment is, blah blah. They've been making recently. This is the last one where I do more different topics. So again, please like, comment, share, subscribe to the video, all that stuff. I just hit 2,000 subs recently, and thank you everyone for supporting me. Thank you all to my members who have signed up for the member program and such. If you're interested in coaching, it's in the Discord. You can reach out to me. We can work on it right quickly, but that's out of the way. Here's so this is the detachment tier list. I'm just gonna rate what I think is the best detachment in how they rate in the codex compared to codex itself. Like these tiers aren't for the game itself, those would be much differently. I could do that, but maybe later. And I did two separate ones to show you the order and how generically good I think they are in the codex themselves. So quickly, and then I'm going to go over the reasons why. The order of best to worst, in my opinion. First, Spectacle Spite. Quite obvious if you've watched any of this content or seen any of the people now that they're following in my footsteps of the results of Spectacle Spite recently. It's by far the best detachment. That's the most. It's the best for multiple reasons. It's the fastest army in the game, which is always imperative. It has very good, unique damage profiles. Like it's one of the best anti-infantry armies in the game, which is a very unique thing to have. It has incredibly high OC, such as that. It has a very good attachment ability. It's another reason that's good is it's an overarching attachment. There's a lot of attachments that are mostly played for the detachment bonus. One of those type of attachments is Subterranean Assault. Subterranean Assault, you rarely care much about the enhancements and the strats are very weak, but the attachment bonus is strong enough that people just play for that. Or there's detachments that are just playing for the strats. Just take this as the old Harlequin's attachment. Goes to the Webway, I think it's called, where the attachment bonus is one of, if not the weakest attachment bonus in the game, but the strats are very good. So attachment was played when people played it for that reason. So that's like a strat attachment. Just why it's played because it's an overarching amazing attachment. It has a very good attachment bonus. It has some very good enhancements, even if I don't run them all. It has three like very playable, one amazing one good one, and one playable one, which is above average for enhancements. It has very good strats. It has obviously one of the best, I would say the best strat in the game. And it doesn't have a lot of useless stuff. It has one useless strat, which is the charge, the fly strat. It's not even completely useless because it comes up once in Blue Moon, but as like a weaker strat. And it has one okay strat, which is the invul save, the 5 invul save. But otherwise, it has 4 really good strats you use all the time, like the +1 AP and lethals. Obviously, the fallback shoot and charge, the challenge met, things like that. So this is an overarching detachment. And why it's the best, for the reason I said otherwise, it's the only completely unique detachment. Everything else will go down to are, have a bunch of good rules. But they're mostly just like good, efficient rules. They do nothing like wholly unique for us of the game. Spectacle Spite does that with things like challenge met and its speed. And finally, why it's another reason why it's the best detachment is due to it synergizing with the best detachments data sheets in the book. The best data sheets in the book are in order, besides like a Venom, not in specific order. These are the top 3 data sheets in the book that are Venom, Witch, Reaver, Hellion. Those are the 3 best data sheets in the book. Those are all Witch Cult data sheets, which is for Spectacle Spite. This is why Spectacle Spite is number 1. Number 2, Cabalite Cartel. Cabalite Cartel is also very interesting. This is also mostly a detachment based attachment. You're playing mostly with attachment bonus. It has some decent strats, some pretty mid ones, and a couple okay enhancements. But this one is, like I said, unlike Spectacle Spite, which is like an overarching good detachment. This is mostly focused on attachment bonus. But it's a very good one, which is army-wide, sustained, and or lethal against specific targets. Army-wide, it always work on specific data sheets, but you're going to build a list mostly running Cabalite and Blades or higher units. So that's great. It has some very good enhancements. So it has very good strats. Like it has 1 CP crits on 5s against a specific target. It has 1 CP +1 to hit in melee, or they take a battle shock test when they die, stuff like that. So what makes this the second best detachment over, as we can see in this one, where they're both rated similarly, Reaper's Wager, is that it's it's also slightly unique. It's the baseline, the highest damaging detachment we have. If you are in a meta where you army-wide sustained and or lethal versus those specific targets, like you're in a meta of Custodian Guard Horde or Vehicle.army, this army, the stocks of this army vastly shine up. So you have the ability to pivot to this type of detachment when those metas arrive. Reaper's Wager or something doesn't have that. It just generically has rules that work all the time, but doesn't have the way of an anti-meta capability. I brought up this anti-meta thing about Cabalite Cartel in a lot of videos, but it is directly that. Specifically in this current meta, it is very positioned to kill Veterans Guard very well. Like any of the three named characters, three main characters of Detachment, Drazzer, Archon, and Malice, all of them plus just 5 EQ almost kills a whole Veterans Guard by themselves, let alone anything else in your army, let alone 10 men EQ. That's very good in this current meta. So it's very positioned well in this current meta, and why I like it over Reaper's Wager specifically, even though I rate them both as A tier slightly more, is because they're both a very similar detachment. They're both the overarching, we buff most of things in the army. Obviously, Cabalite Cartel doesn't buff everything, but since the Cabalite and Cartel units, it makes up probably 70 to 80% of the book. It's the very generic detachment, but the buffs it provides is a lot more impressive than Reaper's Wager in terms of anti-meta capabilities, which we're in. It leads itself to be good right now. But one thing is it's harder to play, which is why it potentially has a lower win rate, or people lean toward Reaper's Wager. It doesn't have the ability to fall back and do anything, or advance and do anything. It's very restricted to its baseline movements, and so you need to pre-plan everything. So it's harder to play, but I think it has a lower skill floor, but a much higher skill ceiling in what you can do. Third, so and we're back to this. I have normal ratings in order. So Spectral Sight is S, and I put an A tier both Cabalite Cartel and Reaper's Wager. So slightly, I don't think Cabalite Cartel is vastly better than Reaper's Wager, not by a long shot. Otherwise, I put Reaper's Wager in B tier. But I think it's just slightly ekes it out. Reaper's Wager third. Reaper's Wager is the generic take it all comers, play what you want detachment. Similar to Realspace Raids, but we'll get to Realspace Raids at the end. It's kind of Realspace Raid, but done correctly, or as correct as you can kind of do without making it maybe OP. Detachment bonus is generically good. It essentially says reroll once to hit at all times. And if you are a Harlequin model, which sadly, this is also what, if Harlequin models were actually like really good, like efficient, these would probably switch in spot, but they're not, sadly. But if you're a Harlequin model, reroll once to hit wound also. It can flip, but that is so niche, especially since you're not running almost any Harlequins except maybe Solitaire, that there's no point to talk about it. And what this detachment, this is also another overarching detachment. You're running it because for all the rules. Because it has decent enhancements, it has a decently okay and detachment ability, and it has okay strats. It has nothing that blows the mind away, which is why it's not second or first. Like, so it has something like Challenge Met. It has the high speed of the army, and it has something like insanely high AP in melee. Cabalite Cartel has the highest single target damage you can get with like crits on 5s, lethal and or sustained, or lethal sustained if you're Malice. Potentially reroll hits on that, and it'll just blow anything out of the water. But Reaper's Wager has just a lot of overarching decent rules. But that's why it's not second or first, because it doesn't have the explosive like boom moment that these detachments uniquely have. But what it has that is very nice, like I said, you have advanced shoot and charge with any day sheet, which is very good. It's sadly similar to Cabalite Cartel, does not have fallback shoot and charge at all, unless you witches. Which also a really big boon, despite to say, is that it has fallback shoot and charge ambiguously to any data sheet. It's not just a witch cult locked. That's really good. But this one has advanced shoot and charge, which is really good. It has one unique interaction that no other attachment can do, which is Spectral can do a similar type of play, to be fair, but you can advance and charge Reapers going 24 inches, which is quite cool. Other rules it has are nice. It has 1 CP lethal or sustained in either phase, which is quite decent as a strat. Due to it being the only damaging increase besides the detachment bonus itself, it's like okay. It doesn't compare really at all to Spectral Spite's lethal and AP strat, or Cabalite Cartel's crits on 5 / Battle Shock the whole enemy strat. Oh, another thing, sorry to go off tangent. One thing that makes Cabalite Cartel slightly more interesting than Reaper's Wager is you have a lone up 18 strat, which is quite huge, especially for the durability of this army. It makes things like Ravagers and Scourges against specific day sheet detachments a lot better versus Reaper's Wager, where they just kind of get mowed down. But other things that make Reaper's Wager good, and at the upper echelon of the tiers, you have a Fight on Death. It's not a great Fight on Death. It's the 1 CP 4-up kind, but it's still great to have access to. And and the last really uniquely good thing this detachment has is the 1 CP Ignore Overwatch. It lasts for a whole turn, so you can use it twice in turn. That is essentially the most unique thing this detachment brings to the table, though there's multiple ways to get Ignore, few ways to get Ignore Overwatch in this detachment, in this army, but Social Spite and Skysplinter, Skysplinter can get them as enhancements, so it's not truly unique, but it is nice to have. This is what brings Reaper's Wager up to somewhat of the low skill floor detachment. It helps a lot with the ability to play this very difficult army, and it brings up the issues a new player might have. You have the ability to ignore Overwatch, you have the ability to advance and charge, you have the ability to reroll ones with every day sheet, and all your buffs work on every unit. So it's very good for that aspect of why of being able to just get into Drukhari, play this very easy, very simple detachment with just good overarching rules. It has nothing like explosive and crazy, but it always works, which is nice. So, but like I said, if the Harlequin stuff was actually like good and mostly playable, I think they would switch. But due to that, Cabalite Cartel, just in general, for a skilled player and someone that knows the army really back and forth, is the second best detachment. Reaper's Wager is very close third. Fourth best, and we'll get to the tiers. I didn't put anything in B tier. I think there is a whole tier difference between Cabalite Cartel and Skysplinter Assault, and these we'll get later. But Skysplinter Assault is very... It was written 2 years ago and was not updated. It doesn't really fit with the current codex. It has a lot of rules that don't really make any sense and aren't really good. One of them is half the detachment bonus, which is you gain ignores cover when you disembark. There's no infantry in the army that has like any amount of shooting. Like I said, you have Cabalites with like 3 special weapons and a shitty flamer. That doesn't matter for ignores Overwatch or cover. The only other unit that has any amount of guns is a Mandrake, and they ignore cover anyways. So that part makes no sense. And then you have like a strat to gain sus 1 or sus 2 on a Cabalite or a Hand of the Archon for 1 CP. That's just complete waste. Like you can go for a casino can with 4 rolls with an Archon, but that's a complete waste of a strat. And then it has the mortal wound strat, which is a very cute and fluffy strat, but it's kind of a new. It's a trap. It's a really bad grenade, and if you bring racks, then it's a good, like a decent grenade, like a good grenade. The one requires you to be in combat, and 2, you have to play racks for it to do much, so it's kind of a trap. But then it has some okay rules. It also has awful enhancements. It has the worst set of enhancements in the book. I couldn't, like in my very unbiased review in the tier list I made, I could not even recommend a single one. So that's kind of sad. So it has no enhancements. It has for other strats that are slightly interesting, it has like some okay ones. Like you have a 4-up invul save, which on the surface for a vehicle, on the surface sounds kind of interesting until you figure out we don't have any vehicles. If the planes were remotely playable, maybe. But right now in the like a realistic plan of saying, yeah, you can take a plane and giving it a 4-bill save as Q. In a realistic land, you have a Raider, you have a Venom, and potentially a Ravager. A Ravager, you do not want to run this army because you have no synergy for it except for that one strat. You don't get attachment bonus, you get almost no strats. A Ravager is not even that good baseline. So essentially you just have a Venom and a Raider. A Venom is a T6 model with 6 wounds. Even that invul save doesn't matter. And similar ways to a Raider is just a T9, a T8 4-up save car. It just dies to like anything, so giving it invul save doesn't matter. I think it's also shooting too. So that strat's kind of a trap, even though it looks okay on the surface. And the reactive move is the same way, because it's a reactive move, which is a 6-inch reactive move, which is pretty good. But it's only for transfer models. So it's only for those 2 models, the Raider and the Venom. Like a lot of those rules were written kind of with the Tantalus in mind. Like giving a Tantalus an invul save because it was relatively durable, giving it a reactive move. A lot of those make more sense. And the Tantalus also synergized with Detachment very well because it was a transport and it held a lot of models, so you could disembark a lot of things. But it does, it's not all bad. This is why it's only C tier. The Detachment bonus itself, like the one that works, is good. Lance on a disembark is quite good. There is an issue with the transport attachments is they only gain buffs, you know, when you disembark, and that's it. You gain some attacks. Like, it's a big issue with something like the World Eaters and EC detachments, where they're like, you disembark against a Rhino, you get some buffs, and there you go. That's also why they buff the EC attachment to make transports always get rerolls. It's cool. Makes Land Raiders cool in that detachment. But this one, you have the synergy of two different synergies. You have one, Venoms innately let you re-embark at the end of the fight phase. So you innately can just reuse your detachment bonus. You don't have to like wait a whole turn to re-embark and then disembark, and it doesn't make any sense. And you also have the strat, the runaway strat at the end of the move phase, where you have to re-embark. If you're witch, you don't have to. That's really good. So you have quite a decent detachment bonus. And since you're an army that has quite low strength, incredibly low strength, Lance matters a lot. It's very good on things like incubi and witches in their characters. It's insanely good. Obviously, you know, Drazar does that anyways. That's why I don't recommend him. But it's free, +1 to wound for him, so you don't have to pay a paid token. And then this detachment has two insanely good strats. It has the one we talked about, I think it's called Covenite Coterie, where you disembark at the end of the fight phase. And the other one, which gives the Land Raider ability to a transport. It's at the end of the movement phase, or it's just you can charge if you disembarked after a transport move this turn. That's what the strat does. So you have things like, and it also gave a little, there's a cute thing with the codex that it gave a little bit of synergy to that. Strat is now Raiders have a 6-inch disembark, so you can have a Raider go 14 inches, disembark 6, still charge. To be fair, 100%, we're not going to glaze the attachment. Witches on foot, just disembarking and running is still going to be faster due to transport being so big, which are tiny little infantry models. But it's insanely good on incubi. This is the most mobile that incubi can do when they're on the ground, is using that strat. And that's very good. Or you have now with the buffs, the buff to the Hand of the Archon, you can do a really cool thing of a Hand of the Archon: scouting 7, moving 14, disembarking 3, and still charging. That's 24 inches of movement. That's insanely awesome. So though this attachment kind of was left in the dirt because they wrote it 2 to 3 years ago, it never updated essentially, except to add Hand of the Archon to 2 strats. I do think it has some legs, and I do value it more than these. That's why it goes in C tier. I don't think it's B tier. I think, like I said, I think it's a whole tier worse than Cabalite and Reaper's Wager. Because that is, to be fair, the only unique thing it does is those two things. And one of its most unique things, which was the disembark at the end of the movement phase, was kind of eclipsed by just witches having advanced charge anyways. All right, into 5th tier, Covenite Coterie. This attachment's a mixed bag. On the surface, attachment's actually quite good. It has some very good rules. -1 to wound for all your Covenant units, awesome. You have restricted dev wounds, but you gain restricted gain dev wounds, but it is just gain dev wounds on units that have twin linked, because both Taluses and Rax have a crap ton of attacks with twin link. That's insanely good. You have essentially Fulgrim's Poison as a strat, but better with the strat. It's strat after you hit someone, they get poisoned the rest of the game. And unlike Fulgrim, this strat does last for the full game. Fulgrim just goes away and Fulgrim dies. There's stuff, really good stuff like that. And then you have AOC, which is insanely good on Taluses. It's actually AOC for any unit, so like I said, you have niche synergy for incubi. The issue with this detachment is, first, there's no data sheets. You have Rax, Taluses, Cronoses, and technically Homunculuses. In 2 of those data sheets are 2 of the worst data sheets in the book, Homunculus and Rax. They are both awful. Rax literally make no sense, sadly. They have 2 wounds at T4, that's cute, and they have a 5-up save, so it's fake durability. Their melee has 2 attacks with Twin Link, that's terrible, but you can Pain Token them and Hazard them to make 4 attacks at 4-1-1 with Twin Linked, and that's just mostly worse than a Witch Squad and Spectral Spite that you don't have to Pain Token. That moves 1 inch faster baseline with Advance and Charge. That can take real leaders. And is 4 less points. That's another big issue with Rax. They cost 13 points, which is insane. I think they're actually the worst of the troop choices. In my mind, they should be the cheapest because they do nothing. They do nothing. They can't stand on a point because they have a 5-up save. Like, in most targets, 5 racks is less durable than 10 guardsmen, even though it has the same save. And it even has one more higher toughness because they're just 2 wounds. They're paying for their double wounds. They're never going to use it because someone's going to shoot a heavy bolter or a splinter cannon at them and they'll just poof out of existence. Their damage is fake because also if you want to do any damage in melee, you have to take away their guns, and the guns are like nichely good, so it's a very weird play you got to do there. And then a lot of the other rules in that attachment are kind of not great. Like a lot of strats, like give some dumb battle shock strats, stuff like that. It doesn't match up. So overall, this detachment doesn't do anything unique. It technically is the durability skew detachment, but with no grotesque, you're just the only durability skew you have are houses, which, you know, they're okay durability, but they're just T7, 7 wounds and a feel no pain and an okay save. They're not durable, but they're durable for the army. And that's really it. And like, speaking of other day sheets, Chronos are also one of the other day sheets in this book. They're not like good. One Chronos is good for cheapness, but that doesn't like do anything. So like having to take like 6 Chronoses, 20 to 40 racks and some Homunculus is bad. You have also 1 CP Res Homunculus, which is a very good strat in every army, but also Homunculus are so bad it like doesn't do anything. That's why his attachment's 5th. Realspace. Realspace I think is the worst attachment. This attachment's kind of a failure on all ends. First off, we'll start with Detachment bonus. Detachment bonus, I don't think it's an F tier because it's still playable and it has okay rules. It's just like there's no reason. First, direct comparison, Reaper's Wager. They're both the run every datasheet type army, except Reaper's Wager does it so much better. So it has a 1-to-1 equal detachment for all intents and purposes, and it's just shitty in comparison. But so what is kind of the failure of Realspace Raid? It's detachment bonus. The detachment bonus is actually completely useless. It's a waste of time. I'm gonna say it right on. So you gain 2 extra paint tokens at the start of the battle round for each if you have an Archon, Homunculus, or a Witch Lady, Succubus. Yeah. The issue is, unlike in the index, you don't need the paint tokens off the end. A lot of your paint tokens are supporting abilities, things like Reavers and Witches. They're not just you're not an army where it's I need a paint token, I can't do damage anymore. You just don't. So a lot of times at turn 1 or 2, you're using just a couple paint tokens here and there, which you'll be just getting automatically per turn. Maybe if you have a Homunculus or a Chronos, refunding it, or just maybe killing a thing on turn 1 or 2. So you'll get a couple there. So and a lot of times by like turn 3, I have like 5 paint tokens I can't spend. I just like have too many. I literally can't spend them. So detachment bonus is kind of fake. So you don't really have an army-wide bonus. That's all it is. It's the start of the game. And with that, Homunculuses are unironically so terrible, you probably do not even take one this detachment. So 130 detachment bonus is gone. So your detachment essentially says you gain 4 paint tokens at the start of the game. That's kind of cute. You're trying to alpha strike someone with Scourges in turn 1, I guess. Turn 2, the strats do not make a lot of sense. You have this really cool strat, 1 CP auto advance 6. And if it's a witch, you can pick 2 witches. Issue is, it's start of the movement phase. So you can't use it in a transport. Your witches have to be on the ground to use it, which just doesn't make any sense. Because also, if you're in a raider, you just get to disembark 6 inches anyway. So you're just faster being in a raider than using this strat. So that strat makes no sense. You have... This is one of the best strats in the book, in the detachment. It's the Fire and Fade. It's 2 CP, Fire and Fade 6 inches. But if you pick 2 Cabalite Warriors, it can make 2 units. So it's like its best strat, except the -1 damage we'll get to. That's the only like redeeming part of this detachment, which is why it's not F tier. Is just a worse version of the Eldar strat, which got nerfed. It's better now, but... And what kind of makes that strat very annoying in the grand scheme of this book is Venoms let you fire and fade anyways. It's not like a true fire and fade, but you can just disembark, shoot someone behind a wall, and run back into your Venom. So like that strat doesn't make much sense. And then the only real damaging strat you have in this book is 1 CP, 2 racks, or 1 Drukhari. That's what all the strats are like. It's 2 of the troops or 1 anyone. Is lethal hits in the fight phase. So it's So much worse than the Reaper's Wager one. Obviously, Giga worse than Spectral Spy one. Stuff like that. So you don't have any damaging attachment bonus. You don't have any damaging buff. You kind of have one damaging enhancement. Like, enhancements are okay, like good in this attachment. It's another reason it stays up. Because you also have another fake strat, which is 1 CP, you get +1 hit in melee if they are wounded. So already worse than the Cartel one, which is 1 CP, you get +1 hit in melee for anything. And if they're the contract, you get a bonus when you kill it. And if they're under half, you get +1 wound. Under half rules are terrible. So this strat says, within reason, 1 CP if your opponent is wounded, +1 hit in melee. It's bad. It's really bad. The Cartel one is like decent because one affects anyone and you have a secondary part of it. And we'll get to the third or fourth like fake strat. You have another one. 1 CP, -1 to hit in a phase, not a Coven unit. This strat kind of looks cute on the surface. Reaper's Wager has essentially the same thing, except only in melee. But it's a trap. Because one doesn't work on the Coven units, the only things that can take and hit. So you have these units, so you're like, I get -1 to hit, I might survive. Your units do not survive literally anything, except unless someone's shooting 2 bolters at you, you physically can't survive for anything in the game. So this strat is a trap. It's a bad strat, and you don't want to hit it. The only other redeeming strat, so this attachment has 2 redeeming strats, is -1 damage for Coven units, Taluses essentially, and or Chronoses, which is actually a very good strat. It's 2 CP, but whatever. It's a very good strat. It is one of the few redeeming factors. The other redeeming factors is there's good enhancements in this attachment. You have an enhancement that you make an Archon. He has to be on the ground, sadly. 4 up, you get a CP every turn, or you can spend a pain token, which makes good use of your pain token spending. And you get just a CP automatically, which is amazing. Also, speaking of that spending pain token this attachment kind of has, which is stupidly annoying, Chronoses specifically don't work for it, so you don't even get a refund. The rest of other good enhancements, you have one for an Archon where he becomes always empowered, which is nice if you have the points. And then the Psychius one is really good. It's +2 AP. It's +1 attack and AP, or +2 attacks and AP if you spend a pain token. But it's, like I said, spending and not using it for pain token bonus. You don't have refunds. So that stuff is stupid. So even like some of the upside parts of this attachment are annoying. So this attachment only has a couple nice things, like very few things that keep it at F tier. The -1 damage for Taluses. Taluses is already decent. The Fire and Fade, even though it's a weird and a bad Fire and Fade, it's still a Fire and Fade, so it can come up. And like I said, it's kind of taken over by your Venoms anyway, so it's kind of like, ugh. And that's really it. So it's not an F tier detachment, it's really not, but it's only held up by a couple things, and one of the best things it's upheld by Covenite Coterie, whatever it's called, kind of does it better, which is Taluses. That's it. That's in my opinion. I'm not saying this is fully correct. The tier list within the book of how the detachments are in the game. Yeah, that's, like I said, that's the tier list. If you have any questions, please post them at the bottom. Please, like I said at the beginning, like, comment, share, subscribe. As a new YouTube person, YouTuber, whatever you want to call it, it helps immensely. I can tell you from real life experience, it does. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any, wants or recommendations for the next type of video, please post it. I will get to you. I will, keep it in mind. Might use it. I got this idea from someone from the other day. He's like, I was like, okay. My next planned video that isn't just like my gameplays and stuff is about a team stuff, because I have a team event in a bit over a week. When this video is posted, it's not going to be a weekend anymore. It's going to be a couple days. So this might be posted right before then, of my team stuff, what I plan to be doing, what I'm going to be doing, my role, all that jazz. If you're very interested in that, please stay tuned.